everybody? We're doing it one more time, one last thing. Today I'm doing another bourbon review special. So this time around, last time I did the Old Forester thing. This time I'm going to do a small minimum selection, meaning it's the only I can find at the moment. But it is a cool rarity collection that I do have. The Weller series from Buffalo Trace. Buffalo Trace, like I mentioned before, it is a really old distillery, and it's ginormous, meaning that it has a lot of foundations that it runs with. Clearly, Buffalo Trace being the staple that they just barely created, but they literally live off Blanton's, Sazerac, and Weller's. Weller's being the Buffalo Trace Mash Bill 1 wheated edition, meaning instead of rye, they use wheat seeds to make their bourbons. And there's about 5 of these. I was able to get a hold of at least 3 of them. And the secondary price ranges differ by the ages it goes. But I figured out, sat there. Luckily for me, in Houston at least, Houston, Texas, the Weller Special Reserves has been a lot easier to maintain and get a hold of here of recent dates. I'm kind of surprised. It used to be a bitch-ass asshole way to find it. But it has been a lot more easier to obtain in recent memory. But the other 2 are still really hard to find. I was lucky to get these 2 on a special buyout at retail. And we'll get to how the difference of retail and secondary changes. But we'll get into that here in a minute. As always, since I'm working by myself, I got my little buddy Guru. We're going to start it off easily. Like I said before, Weller's is the Buffalo Trace's answer to wheated bourbon. Wheated bourbon got popularized by Maker's Mark. But people argue that Weller's is better than Maker's Mark. I say it's a good alternative, especially in the other direction. When you can't get a hold of Weller's, you can just try Maker's Mark Special 46 or Select Barrels, and you probably get the same effect you would tasting a Weller's. But they do differ in change in quality. Now, me personally, a lot of these when I've tried these, the biggest factor I've always got is the sweetness factor. The sweetness factor is high up there, especially when it comes to the vanilla profile. It is one of my favorites, but that being said, is one of the ones I'm very cautious about drinking because they're so hard to find, and the secondary price ranges are ridiculous, especially here in Texas, especially here in Houston, Texas, more specifically. So we're going to work this out and work our way up like we did last time. First runner-up will be the Special Reserve. Weller Special Reserve is the low tier of the Weller series. This is roughly a Mash Bill 1 wheated bourbon, and it roughly, I would say about 2 to 4 years it normally ages. The retail price of it here in Houston was roughly about $25. $22 to $25. Secondary price can go up to topped out at $100 to $120. People really love it. Don't buy it. But here of late, like I've said, they've been really starting to drop down on secondary price because these are starting to get more and more commonly found. So the secondary price slowly coming down, dropping down to maybe $60. But they used to be up there. It used to be at $100. So they do change. But we're going to go ahead and start this off with this. The last time we talked about Weller's was in 2 episodes. One was it worth the buyout? And the other one was is it better than Blanton's? Both of them kind of went hand in hand. Maker's 46 won out between this and Weller's, and this won out against Blanton's. So again, everything's up based on your profile and preference, but that just tells you a lot when you got several people just feeling that the way it is, and kind of goes back to summarizing that Blanton's is overrated. So let's give it a taste. It's really smooth. The more I've tasted, and earlier I had a little sip of some of my stronger stuff, like Old Forester 1910, 1920, and that was more thicker and rich. Going back from that to this, I can finally see some of the complaints that people had on the Weller Special Reserve. It's a little thin. It's thin out. A lot of it probably has to do with the fact that there was some water in the cup, so that's an asterisk right there for me. But still, all the same, shouldn't be enough to change the profile that much. It is a little thin compared to what I just had earlier today. To this, it does run a little thin. The flavor goes away real fast. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. It is worth the $25 to get it when you can get it. Not worth the secondary price if you're really desperate for it. Just wait it out. Just wait it out a little bit. You either have somebody that one of your friends will have it, or you run into it eventually. But with that being said, I gave it a high praise. I'm slowly coming down off that high praise, coming off that recent high. So it's dropping down to about 6 or 7, 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 would be this. It's not a bad bourbon. It's not worth the secondary price, but it's good. It's worth giving it a shot where you can buy it for $25. Next up, we got the Weller's Antique 107, meaning 107 proof. But a lot of people don't like it. I was a huge fan of it when I initially tried it out. This was a bitch and arm and a leg to find next to the 12. The retail price for the Antique is extremely affordable. And this is not just the only Antique. This is the Select Barrel Reserve. So that means that Specs went out and specifically picked out the barrels that they wanted to be bottled and sold at their store, which gives it a more unique profile and adds to that higher level of rarity to find. So say if I end up loving this type of flavor, I may never get that flavor again because it was made differently and a different product mash bill was added to it, or just a different type of barrels that can't be duplicated. So that gives it a more unique profile at this point and on. So that's another asterisk. But most Antique 107s, for what I'm told, is made that way. Whenever you do buy it, it's always going to be a select barrel from that liquor store or preference sometimes. It's whenever it's a cork, that's when they do it. When it's a screw top, it's the manufacturer one that they do for the distillery at Buffalo Trace. But those are harder to come by because those are typically cheaper. Those run by like $30. This was about $8 more, so about $38 was my retail for this, just because of the select barrel that Specs had with them. Secondary price is $150 to $200. They get up, especially since this is select barrel proof, specially made, unique in its own right. It's gonna mark up that value, and it's gonna really make me want to slow down on sipping on it. It sucks because I really did enjoy it, but I'm doing one more for this thing before I lock it up and throw away the key. But let's see how it works now compared to what we got here. I'm using my little fancy glass. Off the back, this is a richer smell. It's a richer smell. I love the smell. The color is just phenomenal. But I just love this. The smell stands out. It stands out from far away. You can even smell it close up. I mean, you just can't beat it. That's phenomenal. And that's a 9 out of 10 off the bat. 9 out of 10 off the bat. I mean, it's a very enjoyable. A lot of people don't like it. I don't understand why. The burn is very minimum despite being a 107 proof. But it's just great. It's so smooth. I mean, it's just you can't beat it. You can't beat it. It's rich. It's thick. All you taste is just the syrupy vanilla. Maybe that's why people don't like it. Maybe because it's too sweet of a profile. But I enjoy it a lot. And this is one I want to hold on to for a long time. And it will be held on to for a while. Especially since this is a cork top. And those apparently more extra adds to the rarity of it. But man, I might say this is a good profile to deal with. This moves up, but this is not even the final form, you want to say it. You still got the VSOP, and then there's another one. And then there's the Rumpelstiltskin, Van Winkle, which I'm never going to get. I'm sorry. I'm never going to get the Van Winkle. It's just never going to fucking happen because I don't have that type of fucking money. But rumor has it if I mix these two together, it's a 40 to 50 or 30 to 60. It will make me my own version of Rumple Van Winkle. Rumple Van Winkle is one of the really really old original. I think it's 18 years wheated bourbon. The original cost value of that is about $1,000. Secondary goes to $2,000. It's a very very expensive whiskey. It used to be cheap, dirt cheap as hell back in the 90s, which ran for like $70 to $80, and it just skyrocketed, especially after the infamous heist that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, which they made a Netflix series about, and it's interesting, but I did not know it was easy to find, and that kind of disrupted everything when it happened. But so moving on, because I'm getting ahead of myself. Another one, and mind you, these are all the same mash bill. These are all stems from this one. They're just aged different. The Antique is aged between 6 to 8 years. This one is clearly, because it says on the bottle, Weller's 12 years. 12 years, about the same thing. So let's see if age does matter. Right now, the smell is more subdued. There's more of a harsh ethanol taste to it. Not necessarily means good for me, but we'll see. Taste is very bland. It's very bland. It's very on the nose, and I think this is it's not. It's not a specs button, but it's very bland. Doesn't necessarily make it bad. It's just very bland. I don't know. The retail for this was $40 flat. The secondary price range is $200 to $250. I ain't even seen it for $300. No, it's definitely not worth that. This is still my favorite. This has got to be a 5 out of 10. I don't know what it is about it. It's not what I expected to be. And I should expect, maybe the whole time I did it before, I was just not thinking about it as much as I am now. But it's just not there for me. This series is a complicated series to come by, but a lot of people do start and swear by the Weller Special. These two, this is definitely worth the hunt. I would really want to try the foolproof when I ever get ahead of it. That's the blue label, and then the white label. God forbid, maybe one day I can get a hold of it. And I think there's a yellow label. And then there's clearly the Van Winkle, which maybe someday I can get a hold of that. Maybe, maybe not. Alright, well, till then, my friends, think safe, drink smart, and drink responsibly.